It would help if I unmute my mic if I'm trying to have a conversation here. That's awful. I was like, why is he not reacting? What's up, everybody? Welcome into the premiere episode Mock Draft Duel here on the OBR. Myself, Jacob Roach, Mr. Sam Penix over here, wanting to take advantage of my favorite thing, which is mock drafts. We'll have guests on as we go through this show, but the two of us will be here throwing some mocks at you every Monday, competing and having a fun draft conversation. So, Sam, how you doing, man?
I'm not doing too bad. Draft season officially here, so favorite time of the year.
I'm going to put my screen up here, and I didn't want it to. Okay, all right. I got my screen up there. Okay, cool. So tonight we're going to do a couple of different mock draft simulators just so we can make sure that we kind of get different scenarios playing out for you, different boards. Sometimes these things can be a lot different from board to board and in the way things actually turn out. I do appreciate all the mustache comments, though. Thank you. Everybody's appreciating them. I love the mustache. So tonight I got PFF's board. PFF's board has been remade recently. Over the weekend, they did push out a massive update. And it kind of aligns more with my board. Sam's got NFL Mock Draft Database, which is also the consensus big board. So that's kind of pooling all of the boards together and trying to make a consensus draft board. And I think that's awesome. So please fire questions, comments in away as we go through these two mock drafts. And Sam, I'll put you on the clock for the first round.
All right, let's do this thing.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever turned it on slow just to see how slow it is? Don't do it. It is so slow if you do the simulations.
Max speed is the only way to go. Like,
absolutely.
There's no other option. So I guess as we kick this thing off, why don't we go through kind of like our philosophy for these drafts? Because I know there's a couple different ways we can go, depending on. I think the biggest question is, what do you do at quarterback this offseason? Because that is the biggest elephant in the room here. And it's not just one quarterback. I think you conceivably need like at least two, maybe even three new guys in the room. So where do you see this going, at least for this sim tonight?
So for tonight, I will stick with the philosophy that I think is the prevailing one for me, where I sit and what I've ultimately been doing on the written mock draft Mondays over on the OBR.com. And that is that I have this belief that I would not take a quarterback at 2. There's only one to me that's a first round guy. It's Cam Ward, and it still scares the crap out of me. Like, he still really scares me. So even though I have him as quarterback 1 and I have a first round grade on him, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to like do it this way. And just solely based on, I don't know. I don't, you get it. There's just so many question marks and stuff like that. So what I've ultimately come to in terms of in the draft is I want a third or a fourth, somewhere around like early day 3, around the top 100. I want a point guard that can run Kevin Stefanski's offense. That is kind of where I'm at. And I'll talk about a bunch of those guys as we get there at that point when we get into the mock. But for me, it's ultimately like some kind of veteran. That veteran might be Jameis Winston. I think if you bring Jameis back and you don't ask him to throw it 50 times a game, you actually give him a run game, I think you can get much better results than we got at times, because you're not asking him. He just is not a throw it 50 times a game and win a game all the time kind of quarterback anymore. And just the decision-making is just not there. And so for me, ultimately, I'm just going to look for a point guard that can distribute to his playmakers. And so that's kind of my philosophy that I stick with and what I'm gonna do for tonight.
Yeah, I think I would agree. For me, like I feel similar to you. I don't think there's a quarterback in this class worth taking that high, number 2 overall, let alone first round in general. So I think that's a 2026 problem, unfortunately. think, like you're saying, you got to find a bridge QB that you can win with in 2025. If the opportunity presents itself tonight, maybe take a guy with some backup or developmental potential later on, but don't like pigeonhole yourself into doing that. It's like, all right, if we don't end up with a guy in the third round, our whole plan is cooked. Like, don't do that to yourself, because this is not the class to find a guy. There's going to be a lot more options next offseason, not only in the draft, I think, but in free agency, in the trade market, stuff like that. So it's not ideal, but I don't think I think the best option is push that down the road to next year. So I think for me, I have two main options. So first is trade down, and I would be seeking at minimum a future first. And so my goal would be to try to get back to that pre-Watson trade, even the pre-2018 ecosystem where they had more than only 3 picks in the first 3 rounds every year. We were kind of cycling through each draft class, trading down maybe once or twice, so you end up with maybe multiple seconds or multiple thirds each year, so that you have the opportunity every single year to add more than the average amount of premium, quote unquote, premium talent. So like top 100 picks is what I'm trying to go for. And then as far as guys in this class, to me, Abdul Carter is the best and most impactful player. And I think you're not going to be able to get him past pick number 3. So that's kind of the decision we'll have to make depending on what we decide to do. So that's how I feel. So I think we're both pretty similar in how we kind of view the overall philosophy, but I think we'll have some pretty interesting decisions down the draft board as we get on. So
yeah, absolutely.
Might as well get going here.
Yeah.
All right. So Tennessee goes with Sanders first overall. I really think it's going to be Ward. You probably feel the same way, but for our purposes, it doesn't really matter necessarily because we're not taking a quarterback. So that's another team's problem. So here we can either do Carter, we could entertain someone like Travis Hunter, or we can see who's available for a trade down. So the two main options I'm seeing here is, so we still have one of the quarterbacks on the board. New York and Las Vegas are the two teams, I think, who are going to want a quarterback. I think they're going to be the most desperate. I don't really see a team further down the draft board who's going to be willing to give up what it's going to cost to get up to number 2, especially in a class with not as great QB prospects. So do you have any thoughts on what I should do here? Should I try to experiment with New York, maybe get a nice pick for a swap here and then still get Carter? Or do I take the big haul and go down to 6 with Las Vegas?
I love the going down to 6 idea, just because I think that is the one that makes the most sense and gets you the return I think you're kind of looking for. But I would always advocate for Abdul Carter, because that dude is just, he's a special kind of athlete. And anytime, the thing that I come back to a million times with Abdul Carter is like, you're going to get a guy that is a special athlete, and you're going to put him opposite a generational athlete. Like, and it's just, I don't know, man. Like, he's been an edge rusher for 1 year, and he's not refined. He needs to work on some counters and things like that. But isn't that terrifying? That like this dude doesn't even really know how to counter that well. Like his hand fighting, it's good, but it's not like Myles Garrett, you know? And it's like, if this guy learns how to hand fight, like you're talking about, like, I remember Von Miller and why am I blanking? It was the year they won the Super Bowl. Who was the other one on the other side with Von Miller? Peyton Manning.
Was it DeMarcus Ware?
It was DeMarcus Ware. Yes. That year
Old
was
DeMarcus Ware, but still DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah. Sickening. Like that was sickening to me what they were able to do. So that's kind of where I'm at. But obviously it's up to you because whatever path you don't take, I'll do the other one.
Yeah. And the thing too with Carter is I think he just turned 21. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have a specific number, but he's very young. Incredible athlete. Like you're saying, he just switched to edge full time. Like he is so raw, but he's already so dominant. And like I don't know, generational as far as I think athletic ability. And if you really look at his production in college on a per snap basis, like he is clearing Myles Garrett in terms of some of these rate stats, which is insane to think about because Garrett is one of the best pass rushers in college that we've ever seen. And Carter is clearing him in some areas against arguably better competition. And like the idea of having him on this team and being able to move him around like a chess piece, I think even more than what you're already doing with Garrett, because I think he has more, he's not more athletic than Garrett because Garrett is just on a whole nother plane from like every other player just because of his size. But as far as like agility and speed, Carter's going to be more of that kind of guy. So he's more Micah Parsons than he is Myles Garrett level player as far as skill set. So moving him around on the defensive line, I think presents so many options and possibilities for Jim Schwartz or whoever is leading the defense that I don't know how you game plan for that, right? Like teams have had enough difficulty already trying to game plan for Garrett and Olivier Vernon, Jadeveon Clowney, Zadarius Smith, etc. And you add in a guy who is a completely different level of athlete in Carter, and that becomes terrifying for opponents. And I think that would open up so many options for your defense, and I think you would see a significant return on investment for your pick. So I'm not going to go that route tonight, but if that ends up being the option the Browns take, they just sit at 2 and take Carter, I'm totally fine with that because I think he's well worth the pick. I don't think anyone's going to be upset with that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So let's see what the Raiders are willing to part with. So we're going to start with
MC threw it. This is a funny comment. Find us the next Barkevius Mingo.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, please don't.
All right.
I was young though. I was younger when Barkevius Mingo was selected, and I just remember that his name had Bark in it, so I was ready to go. Like I was juiced up.
The highlight reel, I was like, oh, this guy's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he made like 15 plays in college, and you saw them all on draft night.
Yes. All right, so the site is unfortunately a little bit bugged.
It is when you're trying to
do this out a
trades.
bit, but we'll deal with it. So we're going to start out with our future first, which hopefully would be a top 10 pick next year. You could trade it with your pick to go get a quarterback like that. That might be the route to take. Gives you options, right?
Yeah.
That's the name of the game. So I would like a future 3 as well. We've got so many of these late picks that I just really do not care to take players with because there's not enough roster spots. Like I get the roster is in not as good of a situation as it's been in past seasons. There's not enough roster spots for how many is this? Like 5, 6?
There's 5 6-round picks and a 7.
Yeah, not happening.
Yeah.
So please take them, and we'll try to work something out here.
And can I have your third? Ooh,
68.
I
like getting 68 because then that gives you 2 high thirds, and you have the late third as well. So that's not only another top 75 player, that's more ammunition to move back up from wherever if we decide that's the way to go.
And it's
I'm not opposed to just 100. Right, exactly. So I'm not opposed to moving around and moving up and down multiple times, but for this trade here, I want to make sure I have the ammunition in my back pocket. So we can actually get a little bit more out of him. So if we part with, let's see what we can do. Are they not going to? All right. Maybe they're not going to give me that high 4. We'll take 68. I'll take another 5th because I can use that. Now I'll keep some of these, I think, but one more. All right. So we're going to give up 2. What is this? 202, 214, 215, and 256. We get rid of 4 of our late picks that we're not going to roster. And we end up with 6, round 3, pick 3, round 5, which is earlier than our round 5. So this is like an early round 5, a 1 and a 3 next year.
I like it.
To move back 5 spots, and we'll see what happens there.
That's the interesting part, is like, what do you still get at this point?
Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some other options here, but from what I've noticed, you can trade back a ton of times with this and end up with some pretty insane hauls that are just completely unrealistic. Like, they'll start offering you like first round picks to get it like a 5th round, and like, thank you, I'll take it, but no, not happening. So
they'll be like, I'll give you my entire draft next year.
Yeah, I'll pull a Ricky Williams for this day 3 guy. No, it's not happening. So Abdul Carter is still here. I don't think that's realistic, though. I want to try to keep this fairly realistic. I want it to be fun, but I want to be realistic about what our expectations are going to be. I don't think you're going to get Abdul Carter at 6. I do think, though, you're going to be able to get Mason Graham at 6. I think he could be on the board there.
Yeah, I do.
I'm not as enthralled with Mason Graham as I am with Abdul Carter, but Graham is an excellent player. And I think defensive tackle is a much bigger need than a lot of people are giving it credit for. Because Mike Hall is the only guy in that room right now who's guaranteed to be on the team next year.
Yeah.
And he's hurt. He's recovering from a serious knee injury. So he's going to be out a good portion of the offseason. I don't know how much you can rely on him early. Dalvin Tomlinson is due a lot of money. He's good. Is he worth what he's getting paid? I don't know. I think that's a discussion to be had. I know that Jack Duffin does not expect him to be on the team, or at least he wouldn't be on the team next year in his ideal scenario. But the point I'm making here is that room right now looks pretty decent. There's a couple of good, solid players in there. Long term, in the next season, it needs some work. And I think a guy like Graham, who there are going to be some concerns with his profile. Like, I don't know how long his arms are going to be. I don't know if he's going to test, at the very elite level. But, man, he's got some good tape.
Yeah.
He is disruptive. And I think he's an all-around player. So you're not just, he's going to rush the passer, then you're going to have to remove him for passing downs, or he's a run stuffer. Like, he's really good against both. And he's a guy that you're going to have to game plan for. And I think he would really benefit from having a all-world edge rusher. And I think Garrett would benefit from having a defensive tackle who is much more talented than anyone he's played with in the NFL yet. So I think I'm going to go with Graham if you want to share your thoughts on him.
Yeah, no, I'm good with Mason Graham. There's been a love affair between me and Mason Graham for a while, so it's well documented on the internet. You got a dude that can do everything. I think he's one of, if not the safest pick in the first round in my mind, just because his floor as a run defender is phenomenal to me. Oh, wow. You know how to do Zoom and stuff. I was like, I
There we
don't
go.
think we know how to Zoom. I saw someone's comment. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I'm glad you know what you're doing. But like, I think he's got such a high floor as a run defender, but is a very good pass rusher. He's very disruptive. He pushes the pocket. It just feels like a safe pick, and he's one of 5 blue chippers for me. So it's like, if you choose not to go the Abdul Carter route, which I'm okay with, then I think Mason Graham makes a ton of sense because you're adding a lot of capital and you're still getting a player that can be very impactful. And if Mike Hall becomes the player we think he is, okay.
Yeah.
That's
If those guys both get even close to their ceiling, that is a terrific tandem right there. Fantastic.
all right.
So I think we'll go with that route. I know like positional value, defensive tackle, 6 overall may not be ideal, but I think in this draft class, like it's going to be fine. And I think people would be happy with the player that Graham is. So we'll go with that.
I'm of the draft good football players mentality, and that's what I think he is.
And he's a
All
really
right.
good one.
I'm on the board here. You traded back, so I won't trade back. I'll go back to back on you. I'll do my first and second, and then I'll go back to you, and we'll just kind of round robin around that way. In part of that, I'll go back to back because my first round pick, it's not going to be any secret. It's going to be Abdul Carter. Look at the PFF numbers here. The 22.6 pass rush win rate, the 13 sacks, 43 hurries, 10 hits, the batted pass. He wrecked that game. He wrecked that game against Notre Dame with one arm. Like,
this is a guy who's played edge all his life, right?
Right. Yeah. No. He did all this stuff as an off-ball linebacker for 2 years. So it's just, to me, and you look at the Notre Dame being one of his better graded games, and he had one arm. And it's like, okay, all right, that's fine. Give me that. Let me put that opposite. Yep. So now it comes to 33, and it becomes this fun exercise where it's like, I love Wyatt Milam, the tackle. I know some people think he's a guard. I can see you thinking he's a guard. The funny thing about Wyatt Milam there is, I think at worst he becomes a good guard, and you're like, I can live with that. If like at worst he's a good functional above average to average guard with the upside that he could be your future left tackle. But I really like this idea of building this brick wall up front. And I've been thinking a lot about not Walter Nolan. I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong one. I've been thinking a lot about TJ Sanders. And Pete Smith said to me one time that TJ Sanders is a Jim Schwartz defensive tackle, if I've ever seen one. And I think he, what was the question? Would I take Watts? Would I take what? I think he is here. Yeah, he is. Xavier, that's a great question. I love Xavier Watts. I don't know where you sit at Xavier Watts. I don't know where you sit about like a safety in this spot. I'd have a hard time doing safety. Just this high. It doesn't seem the team. I mean, I know Grant Delpit, so they have used a pick there, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I do like Xavier Watts a ton, and I do think it is a good option there. But ultimately, my question is, I want to look at the wide receiver because I want to kind of look at weapons here. The wide receivers kind of came off the board there. You know what? I'm going to do it. Colston Loveland is fantastic. Like, if you're talking to me, what's that?
I said I don't hate it.
Right.
Especially with the expected shift back to a more traditional Stefanski scheme. You have David Njoku under contract in that room. Nobody else. Right. You're going to need another legit guy. And Loveland would be that. Like, excellent receiving tight end.
I think he's a better blocker than people give him credit for. I know his run blocking grade's not fantastic at 52.3 from PFF and things like that, but I think he's a willing blocker. And I just think he's such a dynamic playmaker that it just makes the room, it makes your offense, it makes whoever the quarterback's job a lot easier. So for that reason, I'm going to take a dynamic playmaker at tight end. I'll go Colston Loveland.
If you're willing to block, this team can teach you how to do it. They did that with Njoku. That was his issue coming out of college. He wasn't a blocker, and now he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah,
so I'm totally willing to do that. I think that's good value. I don't know that would be a popular pick with a lot of people because it's a tight end. You already have one. That is a really good value for the level of player that he is.
He came in. He's tight end 2 on my board. He came into the year as tight end 1. And really, the only reason he's not tight end 1 anymore is because you can't ignore what Tyler Warren did at Penn State.
Yeah, it's not his fault. That's just another player doing crazy stuff.
He didn't have a quarterback, and Tyler Warren did some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. I'll give it back to you. Go ahead and hit 33. I guess you got 67 and 68 back to back. So just hit us with those.
So, unfortunately, my guy, Josh Connerly Jr., is off the board. That is my ideal pick. I would trade up to get him. I think he's going to be a really good tackle. I think he's an ascending player. I think you have to get a tackle early. And I think he would be – I like him, and I think Simmons are my top 2 guys at this point. Obviously not done watching yet, but those are guys that I would love to insert day 1 and be like, all right, this is our tackle for the next decade.
Connerly, I think, might be the best athlete at tackle in this class.
Oh, he is a fantastic athlete.
Like,
which is, I think, another reason why I'm so high on him, because he doesn't have any limitations there physically. He's already really good, and he's you can see he got better throughout the season. He got better since last year. He's going to be a good one, I think.
Do you want to know? You want to know something interesting that really shows what kind of athlete he was? When he was first playing high school football, he was a running back.
You don't hear that too often, do you?
He just got bigger and stronger, and they're like, we need you on the offensive line. Yeah. The rest is history. And he just turned 21, I think.
Yeah, young guy.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of things going for him. I don't think he'll be around at this point in real life, so that's realistic. But if they can go make a move, maybe give a team 67 or 68 here, move back up for him, I would be all for that. Unfortunately, that's not how the board went, so we're left with this. Benjamin Morrison is really interesting. He's a fantastic player. I think if he were healthy, or if I knew for sure he had a clean slate, clean bill of health, I would take him here, no hesitation. I think he's super good. But hip injury, cornerback, really concerning.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do that without knowing the medicals. Mike Green, really interesting. He's a fascinating prospect. We got your guy Wyatt Milam. What else we got here? Donovan Jackson. I think the guy I'm going to go with here is Membu from Missouri. I don't think I'm taking him as a guard, though.
You're going to take him as a guard?
I don't think I'm taking him as a guard. I'm taking him as a tackle until he fails at tackle.
I like, yep.
So I think you're not going to find many guys who played better at tackle this year. And I mean, we'll see how we test. We'll see how the physicals are. But you need someone who can step in there and succeed at tackle. If that doesn't happen, I think he can be a great guard too. But tackle is going to be my guy here. So you've got to replace Wills. The free agent class is not encouraging. I think you're forced to keep Conklin another year, I think, because of that. I think Conklin is great, so I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't think you can depend on DeJuan Jones for next season, because not only because of that injury, but because his play before the injury, man, he had a bad 2024. Not writing him off, but you can't rely on him, in my opinion. So I think tackle has to be a priority. And unfortunately, at least right now, we're not seeing the level of prospect that you would be comfortable taking 6th overall or 2nd overall.
Yep.
Like in previous years, maybe even next year. So I think at this point, a guy like Membu at 33, I think makes a lot of sense. So that's the way I'm going to go.
I think you will find a place to play him. He may fail at tackle first. I'm not sure he will. I like him a lot. But like you said, it might be guard. Maybe it's center. I don't know, but there is a position on the field where I think Membu becomes a very good NFL.
This isn't an Austin Corbett situation either. Like,
no,
he's a legitimate tackle.
Yeah.
And I think there's a clear vision here where if he doesn't play tackle, he has everything you need to be an excellent guard.
All right, so Membu off the board. Go ahead and hit me with 67.
All right, let's see what we got available here.
I love watching it. You'll lock in on a player, and then you'll see him pop off right at the last second. You're like, no.
It's like what is it called? I'm blanking on the specific term, but in quantum mechanics, it's the act of observing the atom that changes its behavior, right? Or the light wave, the light, whatever you're. I'm making a lot of people mad right now, but don't worry about it.
It's all right. I don't know. I'm not that smart, so you could have said anything, and I would have believed you. You could have been like, "Well, you see."
I'll come up with a dissertation for next time. We'll go.
Okay.
All right. So there's a lot of options we can go here.
I do like Cam Scatteraboo, Jeffrey. I do think he's a fun player. This is a fantastic running back class.
Yep. There's Caleb Johnson is intriguing here. To me, I think you need at minimum one running back, and I would like to take two.
I'm fine with that.
I would like to take both types of skill sets, and then you have Jerome Ford as the other guy.
Give me thunder and lightning.
Yep. Yeah. And unfortunately, the two Penn State guys going back to school kind of reduces that, because that's one from each side that just we just lost.
You could have just take both of them and just be like,
we'll survive. There's plenty of guys. So running back is an option here. Harold Fannin.
Oh,
if he's here, I get there are size concerns, but man, is he a good receiver.
He set records. Like he was at a school where everybody knew their entire passing offense was him, but they couldn't do anything about it.
No. I don't know how realistic it is for him to be here this late, but I'm just going to do it. It's like we were talking about before. We need some more tight ends. Really, I think they just need more offensive weapons in general, because the receiver room under contract next season. For my notes here, the receiver room is Judy, Tillman, Bell, Rash, and Woods.
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
So even if Fannin struggles as an inline blocker right now, I think you can put him as a big slot and he's going to do just fine. So I'm perfectly fine with that. So offensive line is also an option here. I know you like Zabel.
Yeah.
So that's a thought. Why don't you give us a little rundown on him, since he's a smaller school guy?
Yeah, the North Dakota State. He was interesting because today I was trying to figure out to myself if I wanted to write him up as a tackle prospect, or if I wanted to write him up as a guard prospect, because that's what you're going to get with this class a lot when it comes to these tackles and I mean, we just had the conversation about Mimbu. Like that's, it's like, well, I cannot find him on my screen either is the problem. I can't. Where are we at? Ooh, I've already lost. There he is. Okay. I wanted to bring this up because I know his split. So the thing that I love about Zabel is he's played every position except really, well, he hasn't really played much center or right guard, but he's played a bunch on left guard, right tackle. In 2023, he had 200 snaps at left guard and 600 at right tackle. And then this year he was at left tackle. I think he moves pretty well. 6'6", 305. I think like he's one of those guys that has kind of some of the pad level issues. He's a little lean at 6'6", 305. So he could have to move inside. I think is best as a pass blocker, but he plays really well in zone situations, as zone blocking run situations. So he can be that guy in this system. But it's one of those things where as long as I think if you take him and don't make him play week 1 as a rookie, I think he'll be okay. But I think he just needs a little bit more mass and power. Because like you see some of the gap power concepts and stuff, it's where he's a little bit weaker. I think he's phenomenal hand usage and like a real technician as a pass blocker. I think he's really refined there. The only problem with that is, again, 305 pounds. If you get a real big bull rusher, if you get Isaiah McGuire, for example, like I think Isaiah McGuire would deposit him into a quarterback's lap because he just doesn't play with the leverage he needs to play with to be that thin and that light. But all that takes is an offseason or two in his strength and conditioning program, and then he bumps up to 325 or whatever. But the physical tools are all there.
Yeah. Hard to survive a tackle at 305, but even like 315 you can get away with if you're a good one. So that's definitely an option. Embo, different from Membu. Marcus Embo from Purdue. He's a really good player. Also light. He's definitely on the lighter side, just like Zabel. Lots of talk about him moving positions as well. The thing, like you're saying, with a lot of these guys, it's are they tackles or they have to move into guard, and some of them there's talk about moving them even in the center. So and Embo is one of these guys that I've heard a lot of people talk about. Could he be a really good center at the next level?
I think so.
So you're going to have options with some of these guys, and it just depends on what is your vision for these players, because I think you can get away with it, like, oh, this is just a good offensive lineman, we'll find a spot for him. But especially for these guys who need some mass, who may not have the longest arms, but they're really good athletes, where do you see them playing, I think is really important. Now, a guy like Belton from NC State is total opposite, because this guy's like 335 pounds listed at. He is a big guy, absolutely a tackle, I think, at this point. He's a lot lighter on his feet than you would think he'd be at 335. Like, I was surprised to see how well he moved. I was like, okay, like there's something here with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is a lot more aware and intelligent on the field than I was expecting him to be, considering he's, a mid-third guy. He is something that I really liked was, the term looking for work, right? Guys who are, when they don't have a one-on-one opportunity, they're not blocking anyone one-on-one. They're looking around trying to see where they can help their guys. He loves to do that. Like, he will shoulder check a guy into the ground and then keep looking for the next one. Like, he's an offensive lineman who's fun to watch. So he's a guy that I'm interested in. I don't know that I'm going to take him here because I already have a guy who I think is going to be a tackle. Wouldn't hate it, though. If you look at edge, I don't know that there's really anything at this point that I am super drawn to. Safety, we got to kind of consider. So Kevin Winston is a guy who could be an option here. We already talked about running backs. I don't really love defensive tackle here. Wide receiver, there's a few guys, depending on how you want your wide receiver archetype to be. Like Tez Johnson, small guy, fast guy. Iron Manor, big guy. So you have a wide range. Restrepo is also a smaller guy. The one I have my eye on is Azareye'h Thomas from Florida State. And I say this because Denzel Ward is fantastic. You kind of don't know what Martin Emerson is anymore, right? Like, he had a rough 2024. I don't know that you can go into next season with him as a starter and feel good about that. Greg Newsome, don't know what the status on him is going to be. It sounds like they've been trying to gauge trade interest in him for a while. He's due money that I think is going to make him a top 15 paid corner, and he is just not that guy. So I think you need at minimum more talent in that room, and I think a guy like Thomas could even come in and start. Lots of people, lots of respected analysts say that he is one of the best man cover corners in the class.
Yeah.
So I think he's a little bit on the bigger side too, which is, I think, really important when you're talking about man corners in this day and age. I think I'm going to go with Thomas here because that room concerns me past Ward. Love Ward as a CB1. I think he's one of the best in the league. After that massive drop-off at one of the most important positions. So I think you have to improve that room. And I think Thomas is the way to go here.
All right. I love that, to be honest with you. So you're not going to get any gripes out of me on that. All right. I'll hit you I got 67 and 93 here. Off the top of the board. I'm huge on Dillon Gabriel. I'm not going to go radically and take him at 67. But because I think I would just create some discourse that I just don't want to have tonight. So we're just not going to do that. I love Dillon Gabriel. I love Tyler Booker, the left guard. I just don't know. Like, he's more of like a power guy. I'm not crazy about his movement skills.
Yeah, and that's important for this team.
You're just
gotta be able to move.
What I am kind of interested in is Jonas Savanaia. I know how to say his name, but I got all excited about it and I freaked out. I think he's a guard. Ultimately, I think he's a guard. He's played left tackle, right tackle. He's played right guard quite a bit. I ultimately think he's a guard. Just kind of I think he's got the movement skills to hang out and the athleticism to hang out at tackle. Just kind of some concerns there, but we've got Jalen Royals is on the board here at the Utah State wide receiver.
Do you want to have the Jalen Milroe conversation?
All the tools in the world, but dude, what are you doing? Well, I just don't know why you would have came out right now. Like, I would be shocked for him to still. I know that like that is adequate in terms of putting him at like 69. What is he at? 69 overall on their board. That's like adequate. For tonight, we've got about 15 or 20 minutes left, so we're not going to do that conversation right now because I don't think we've got.
It's a can of worms that we're not going to open.
We could fill the rest of this show talking about Jalen Milroe, but I will say if he's there in the third, his tools are great. Big arm, dynamic playmaker with his legs. Sometimes he can't hit the broadside of a barn. It becomes kind of that conversation. I like Deion Walker, but he really dropped off after last year. Lathan Ransom's a really interesting guy. For some reason, Fannon's still there. I could double up. Charles Grant, I think, is definitely a guard. You know what? I'm going to go with Jonas Savanaia. I think he has really good movement skills. Better pass blocker than he is run blocker. You can see though when he does, his zone grade is much better than his gap grade. So he's more of a guy. He's got a good size too, 336, 6'5". He moves really well for being that size. He might be able to kick out and play some tackle for you. Has experience on both sides. I think he's a guard with tackle flexibility. So ultimately, I'll take Savaniev for that reason. Back on the board here, 93. Some interesting conversations here. Oh, man. This is interesting. Let me see. Let's see. I would like to see what I've got at wide receiver. I don't really have anything in this range. Yeah, I don't like any of that in that range. I'm not ready to go quarterback yet. It's a delicate subject. Not really there yet for me at defensive tackle. It's a little early for a running back, maybe. Yeah. Mello Dotson's fun. Man coverage and zone coverage corner. I think he's pretty good. 56% completion percentage against him. It really starts getting slim pickings. You gotta kind of. It starts getting Donovan Smith. I have Donovan Smith. I think at guard 3 or 4. I think that's where I have Donovan Smith. Just saw the question pop up over there. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'll do Quinshon Judkins here. Listen,
All right.
If you want to talk about a running back, if you're like, hey, give me a running back. Yeah.
Because he has no merit to go this high on his own.
Yeah. So well, let's do it. Donovan Smith. I was thinking Donovan Jackson. If you're looking for a guy like that wants to steal your soul while at running back, that's what Quinshon Judkins. Sometimes I wish he would bounce some runs more outside instead of he'll line someone up, and if he lines you up, he's like, I'm taking that. Like, I'm going to lower the shoulder. I'm going to put you absolutely on the ground. And that's what's going to be. I think he took someone's soul on a lead block against Texas to spring Travion Henderson. I think it was in the first half where he just came out and just dismantled a dude. And you're like, oh, okay. I just think really powerful, strong runner. I think he can be a workhorse if needed. I've seen him make people miss. I've seen him, the stuff he did at Ole Miss. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Really great contact balance and body control and all that stuff. And it's a little early for me at running back in the 3rd round because I think you can get some guys on day 3, but in this situation, I've added a dynamic playmaker, offensive line depth, and another really good playmaker in Quinshon Judkins to go with that Bill Carter. So I'm good with that.
All right. So back over here, I have 2 main options that I'm considering. Kevin Winston and Cam Scatterbo.
We're talking about people taking souls.
Yeah.
So That's
everything
the thing
you just said about Judkins. Ramp it up a notch. You got Scatterbo. So I think it makes sense here. I think I'm just going to go with him. I think even if you don't get another like a speed guy later on here, I think he complements Jerome Ford well enough that can be your duo this year. Just workhorse is the term for him. Like, he is just a tough, hard-nosed runner. Shades of Peyton Hillis. I don't know. Like
Peyton Hillis,
prime Peyton Hillis, the one year, 2010 Peyton Hillis.
Till he started missing the game for a cold.
And then joined the CIA or whatever.
Then he saved his kids from drowning. That was crazy.
He's gonna get me.
Have you seen the movie he's in? He made a movie where he was a werewolf. We won't derail this conversation anymore. But
all over the place.
Cam Scatterbo,
legendary man.
What I'll say about Cam Scatterboo is he's an old school running back where like the more carries he gets, the better he gets.
Mhm.
So it's like okay. All right. So back to me. We'll trade off here now that we'll go back and forth. Okay. All right. Can I interest you in Will Howard at 103? And this is go ahead.
I'm trying to decide what faction I want to anger less.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't necessarily see him as a starter in the NFL, but I think he can be a quality backup. Maybe he surprises some people and ends up, proving himself as more than that. But I think he can do everything that you would want him to do, especially in this offense.
Yeah,
as a backup. And I think in the 4th round, like, that is a very high outcome for a 4th round pick, especially a 4th round pick quarterback to be a good backup. I know it doesn't sound great, but like you need that player. So
when my thing is like, if he has to play, like, can he be what Bo Nix is? Like, and I think Bo Nix has got more talent than Will Howard. But my biggest thing is like with Will Howard, like, can he be a point guard? Yes, that's exactly what he is. That's exactly what he is at Ohio State. And I think he has some spikes where he makes some throws. That throw to Emeka Ibuka against Oregon was – he probably couldn't do that if you made him do it 100 more times. Like, it was a beautiful –
but it's there. It's there.
But you see those throws once in a while with him. You'll see those throws where he makes those things. He's smart. He's seen a ton of football, understands how to put the ball in a place. Like, Jeremiah Smith had to make some crazy catches with some of his passes, but one thing I'll give him credit for in those passes is Jeremiah Smith was making that play or nobody was. The defender doesn't have a shot at some of those passes. He puts it in a place where, his wide receiver had to make an astounding play to make it 100%. I'm not advocating to take him in the 1st round and make him your starter day 1, but can he run a Kevin Stefanski offense adequately and be a day 3 pick where, like, if you need him to play this year, he can. If not, he's just kind of that guy that's there and it can be good enough. I think he is. And I say that as saying, like, I did go back-to-back Ohio State. Oh, people are gonna – I didn't know I did that. I was – anywhere. I think he's also 24. He's close to his ceiling. I understand all those things. I think he can operate a quarterback-friendly scheme like Kevin would ask him to do.
I agree. I think –
so which faction do I
higher floor, lower ceiling guy, but that's what this quarterback class is. Like, you're not gonna find much better than that at this point, especially. So
it's like, can you play a little bit? Yeah. All right.
Okay. Your value just went up like a round and a half because of this year.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You picked the right year to be a senior.
And I'll say we'll have this conversation in future episodes, but like, I kind of like Kyle McCord. Anyway, go ahead.
Moving on. I'm going to go with a Buckeye here too. I'm taking Lathan Ransom. 3 straight Buckeyes. Let's go.
That's all we're doing. We're
run defense first, safety, but I think he does it very well. I don't necessarily think it makes you move Delpit to free safety, even though Delpit can do that. He's still much better as a strong safety, but with how many times you see at least 3 safeties on the field, and then how much Ronnie Hickman has played, how much Rodney McLeod has played, you need a lot of guys in that room. And I think you're going to need a new starter because I don't think they're bringing Thornhill back. So I think Ransom at this point makes a lot of sense as a guy you can move into the box and just let him essentially do the same thing he's doing at Ohio State. And that's just like tackling dudes and being rock solid. So I'm totally fine with that here.
I love another guy that wants to hit you. Like that's what he is. He wants to come down. He wants to hit you. And like, I just like his I don't know. I like his attitude, I guess is the biggest thing. The question about Will Howard, how's his arm?
It's fine. It's not as good as you would think it'd be because he's like prototypical size, but it's fine. Like it's not a noodle arm. He can make all the throws that he needs to. It's fine. It's definitely for a more play action West Coasty style offense. It's okay.
Yeah, he's got like a 96 deep passing grade for PFF, so like he can do it. It's just I don't want to live there.
No.
It's better than Kyle McCord's. Anyway, it's not a big barometer. I'm aware. All right, moving on down to see what we got going on here. Speaking of guys that want to hit you, can I interest you in Jay Higgins, the linebacker? What am I? No, it's way too.
You'll have to. I haven't really delved into the linebacker class yet.
Good athlete. Missed tackle rate, 13 missed tackles, 112 actual tackles made. I think moves real good, real rangy. I think he's really instinctual in coverage, which kind of makes it kind of where you would like him to miss less tackles. Let me be very clear about that. It's a 10% missed tackle rate. You would like him to miss more tackles, miss less tackles. But in the 5th round, I'm talking about a guy that's pretty good, pretty rangy, smart, instinctual, better in coverage than he is as a run defender. But I think he could be a real quality depth. And I think he's a quality football player. And I think that's kind of what I'm going for here at 167.
You're going to need linebackers too. Is like, what does that room look like now in 2025? So Hicks is a free agent. And no one knows anything about the status of JOK.
Yeah.
So if he is not playing, yikes.
And Higgins is a guy that
huge loss.
Higgins is a guy too that I think can really excel in special teams,
which is important, especially considering what you've lost in that room. So, all right, over here. 142, so this is a high 4 that we got from the Raiders. I think I like Blake Miller here.
Oh, the right.
He is a guy who he needs to get stronger, but he moves like a tackle. I think he's got length. There are some other guys like Ozzie Trapillo here, or Trapillo, however you say it. I don't think he's lasting until the 5th round, so I'm not gonna entertain things that are just wildly unrealistic. So Miller, I don't think he'll last this long, but I think it's more realistic than Trapillo. So
yeah,
he's not a guy you can play right away, but you don't have to play him right away because you have Membu for the left side, you've got Conklin on the right side. I think you can bring along Miller here, and if you can add him 10, 15, 20 pounds of muscle and just improve that core strength, I think he can be a really good fit in this offense too because of how well he moves as a zone scheme tackle.
Yeah.
So I like adding more depth to that room, young talent to that room, and I think it's really needed. So I will happily go with that.
All right. Back to me. I'm on the spot. Let's see what we got here. We got a linebacker, running back. I think Savania is a guard, which means I should look at some tackle depth. What's going on here? Anthony, Holland Pierce, the left tackle from Rutgers, is massive. 6'8", 344 pounds.
Wow.
But he moves, man. like a better zone blocker than he is a gap blocker. We can look at Anthony Belton there, but I think with Holland Pierce, I like him a ton. Just a big, powerful kind of drive you into the ground. I know it doesn't completely mesh with some of the concepts that you're going to do here, but I think the value for him and a guy that big and that powerful who does have good movement skills and a ton of experience at left tackle. He's also played right tackle, as you can see back in 2022. Just 1 sack this year, 1 sack last year. But I think he's really made some impressive strides. So I'll take Holland Pierce, the Rutgers left tackle here.
It works. So this is the late round 5. This is where things kind of start to get really a lot more difficult, which is why I got rid of all those picks, because
I got to go make all.
You're those. Not. This is not a deep draft class, anyways. So I don't think you're losing much. I kind of am interested in another running back here.
Okay.
I want to find one that is a good Robin to Scadabo's Batman. So are any of these guys jumping out to you as like a good speed back? We can cross off Maulings from the list because he's another power guy. Someone like Tootin or...
I would say let me look here again. I would say it's probably Tootin.
Yeah, I think you can go with that.
The short area quickness, especially. Kind of that burst and kind of moving around in those short areas. I think Tootin really excels in those
6.3 yards per carry this year, 15 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That works.
That tracks. That plays. All right, it's speed round, everybody. That's right. We're going to power through this so we can give you a look at the end here. So you have 2 picks. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my God. What? All right. So going through here, I like Malachi Moore a lot. The safety from Alabama plays all over the plate, in the box, deep in the slot. I think he's best in the box. But 23.3% forced incompletion rate. Just a really good deep cover safety that can play really good deep, but he can move up in the box. He played in the slot corner. Just a lot of versatility there for Malachi Moore from Alabama. So I like him there.
All right. I'm going to go with Curtis Rourke here over your QB1, Kyle McCord.
Oh, somebody's going to clip that up and be like, oh, wow, that's what he said, huh?
No. So I'm not expecting Rourke to be a starter, but if he needed to play, I think he has the accuracy and the requisite base level arm strength to execute properly. And hopefully he'd be a little bit more mobile if he had an ACL, which is like crazy. How do you play a whole season, college football playoff, and you didn't have your ACL? Like, that's impressive. So
that's a re-torn ACL is the crazy part.
Yeah.
Like, he had tore that because I remember him at Ohio University. Like, full disclosure, I worked at Ohio University for a long time. I was around the athletic program. I remember him there, and I remember him moving well. And everybody this year is like, he can't move at all. And I'm like, and I watched his tape, and I was like, you're right, he can't. But like, I saw this guy like 3 years ago running all over the place. And then they're like, yeah, no, it just turns out like didn't have an ACL. And you're like,
that explains it. Kind of important.
There's everybody's favorite person there.
Ooh, Shiloh Sanders.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let me see, did I take a true wide receiver? No. Okay. All right. That was what we were looking at. Ty Robinson. No, that's not who I was thinking it was. Let me pull up the actual wide receivers instead of just like scrolling down through here. I like Elijah Badger pretty well. The contested catches situation had 0 drops on 61 targets this year. I think
good skill set to have.
Yeah, 6'1", 192, so that he's kind of an in-betweener, like, because he's not super, super quick, long speed, but, like, catches everything, can play bigger than he is, and I think he can create some missed tackles in the open field. And so, like, hey, if you can catch the ball, so he's basically Aiden O'Connell.
That's the
Yeah.
requirement here in round 6 in this draft
Not have
class.
an ACL.
Are you wide receiver? You catch the ball.
Well, a little bit of an underrated characteristic for a wide receiver, catching
That's
the
true.
football.
It's true. It's going out of style these days. All right. So what I would do here is I would take Tip Keenan from Alabama because I really like him. I think he's a excellent two-gapping nose, but he's going back to school, so I'm not doing that. Full disclosure, I haven't delved into this guy yet, but I saw our pal Corey Kinnan post a couple clips on him. Jordan Phillips from Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
From what I saw, I really liked because you cannot teach a guy, especially a defensive tackle, you can't teach a level of like violence and just like effort that they give in the rush. And this guy has it. Like he goes crazy when he's rushing the quarterback. And I like that. So I'm taking him.
All right. So
And I got an F, but that's fine.
Yeah, I love to aggravate the mock draft simulator sometimes. So I'm gonna go with a guy I love in Tonka Hemingway, and part of that's because his name's Tonka Hemingway.
That's a first round name.
A little bit undersized. He's a 288, but he had quick first step. I think he does a decent job of shooting the gap, kind of gets skinny and a pretty good swim move. More of a pass rusher than anything at defensive tackle. But I like him quite a bit. Just some really good pass rush upside, I think, is the biggest thing for him, and that's kind of what you're kind of looking for at this point. I almost kind of want to take Donovan Edwards. No, you know what? Cooper Mays, the center from Tennessee, just recently started watching his tape the other day. Love it a ton, dude. Super athletic center. Biggest thing you're going to see here that you're going to be is like 310 is what they list him at here. I saw something list him at 295. Ooh. So that's going to be the key for him. Yeah, 6'4". Okay. He's slender, and you're going to see it. He's probably somewhere in between that. He's probably close to 310, probably 305 is probably about where I would say he is. But movement skills are great. Just isn't quite a mover in the run game because he just doesn't have that mass behind him. He doesn't have that raw power, but I think he can get there. But I think he would be a really nice developmental center because with those movement skills. And so if he, especially this late in the draft, I think it's like, what are you going to do? Did I? Yeah. Colston Loveland. I was like freaking out that I didn't take a guard or a tight end. I was like, oh my God. I do this sometimes. You get deep in this draft and realize you didn't take a position that you really wanted to. And you're like, that sucks. BJ Adams is an interesting corner. I think he's bigger corner. No. So yeah, 6'3", 190, more of a man coverage corner than anything. And like we talked about, we know that they love that. So that's where we're going to go. So Sam, I will let you put yours up on the board. And there you go.
So I like that trade down. I mean, we netted a future first, added that early fifth and that early third, landed Mason Graham for our defensive line. Then we get our starting left tackle in Armand Membu, at a really intriguing tight end prospect in Harold Thomas, a big man cover corner, Cam Scattaboo, and Bayshal Tootin are our new running back duo. Then we get Lathan Ransom for the defensive backfield, Blake Miller, developmental tackle. We rounded out with Curtis Rourke as our backup quarterback, and then Jordan Phillips for some defensive line depth.
So grade Sam's, throw it in the, if you want to grade it or whatever, and throw some comments. We'd love to know what your guys' thoughts. I'll go over mine here real quick. This is our first episode working out the kinks and everything. So we're really excited for everybody that's hung out with us for this. We're going to continue to do these dueling mock drafts and take you through a bunch of different crazy prospects and a bunch of different crazy routes. I'm also doing mock draft Monday, written mock every Monday at theobr.com. So you can check that out as well. All right, here we go. For me off the board, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher in the first round, Colston Loveland, the dynamic tight end, Jonas Savanaia, I think he's an interior offensive lineman from Arizona, Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State, Will Howard, the quarterback from Ohio State, Jay Higgins, the hard-hitting linebacker from Iowa, Holland Pierce, the big hulking left tackle from Rutgers, Malachi Moore, the do-all play everywhere safety, Elijah Badger, doesn't drop the football, Tonka Hemingway, upside pass rusher in the inside. Cooper Mays, I think, is a nice developmental center from Tennessee, and the man corner BJ Adams from UCF. I got a B+. I really thought they were going to be much harder on me than that. So, guys, thank you so much. Please make sure you subscribe to the OBR YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. And please make sure you tune in. We'll be back at you after Quincy Carrier Live again next Monday, 8 p.m. Any last words, Sam?
No, just check back next week. We'll have more prospects, different scenarios, and some guests in the future. So these should be fun to continue doing all the way through April.
Dude, I'm so excited because we're just gonna get, at some point we're gonna get weird. We're gonna get really weird, and that's where we'll end it. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you check out theobr.com. We'll see you guys again next time. As always, go Browns.